Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Hope you're having a good week, weekday, evening, night, whatever it is. I want to catch up with a little bit of what went on at the Houston Latino Film Festival this year. I talked to several filmmakers throughout the festival. They had some really interesting things to say about their films. And some of the films themselves were pretty remarkable. I mean, you heard in the last episode, I tried to run through several of the features that I saw. But, there were also a lot of short films. And, I don't necessarily talk about short films so much here because I feel like they are a little bit of a different format. But I do want to give some time to let some of those filmmakers talk about their work. So I'm going to play a little bit of just the conversations that we had and let you hear from them directly. And some of them, the audio, because of things that were happening in the room, the audio isn't always great. We've got like music playing and people talking, a lot of things happening at the festival itself. So keep that in mind. These were also recorded on video. So at some point, these will probably start popping up on the Houston Latino Film website or YouTube page. And when that comes around, I'll link to that. So you may see some links to that in this episode in the description. Or you can go to filmstreak.com. I'll probably put together a page with some links there. Also, I did put together a list of, I think, everybody that I talked to, all the filmmakers that were there with films. You won't necessarily hear them all now, but if you do want to find out more about their films, you can watch some of the trailers for their shorts or their features. You can find some links to Instagram or websites, other places to kind of follow what's going on with their work. It's just good to do, right? I want to give all of these people, these talented filmmakers and artists, want to give them a place to shine outside of the festival itself. To see their films, of course, that is something that you really got to go to the festival for. There may be a point at some time later where you may be able to see their work online somewhere probably. But otherwise, that's the value of going to the festival. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, but a lot of times you're going to be surprised. You're going to be amazed. You might even be moved. And so let's just remember that that's what these kinds of events are for. So in the meantime, listen to these, check them out. If I talked to you and I didn't include an interview here, thanks for taking the time to talk and to kind of be at the festival and take part in everything. I'm trying to kind of keep this down to a reasonable time in terms of the length of this episode. So anyway, let's roll it.
My name is Kent Mendoza, and I'm producer of $1 Million Cage, which is about my story, my life, but particularly the work that I'm doing to transform LA County's juvenile justice system.
Okay, good. So you are the focus of this film. This is all about you. It's a very personal story, but it is about a bigger issue, right?
Yes.
Have you seen that that issue is something you're finding, taking the film to different festivals and maybe going to different parts of the country? Are you seeing this as something that happens everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, mass incarceration is a big issue in the whole United States of America. We incarcerate the most civilians than any other nation. But in particularly, we also treat Black and brown youth very bad when they make bad decisions as kids. And I am a testament to that. And so yes, I see it. This is not just an LA County issue or California issue, but this is an issue that you even find here in Texas, in Florida, every state you could think of. There's
right.
Kids who are being tried as adults or who are being basically given nothing but just cages and cells simply because we don't know how to work with them or how to support them in their tough moments in their life.
Right. I got a sense that just how it's depicted in the film, how it shows your life and your relationship with your family and the struggles and the issues you face there. I know that's an important part of your story, and this film, it shows that this is not just you. It is all across. It is all ages. Do you find that your story, does it maybe give some perspective for younger generations?
Yes.
This has been some time since you've gone through this, but there are people coming up under you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I mean, I always use this quote all the time. The real gang banging is policy. And when I say that, it's like, when I joined the gang, when a lot of us who are in the streets joining gangs, we're doing it because we want to be a part of something bigger than us. We're doing it because we think we're joining something that has power. But in reality, all the power lies on policy. Policy is what controls society, what controls all of us. So if we really want to do the real gang banging, we're supposed to be getting dressed nice, suited and booted, knowing how to talk properly, and going directly to the people that control the county jail system, the juvenile hall system, all the system that control us as kids. We can change it, but it's all done through changing the policy. So that's how we say the real gangbanging is policy. So it does I think it gives young people a different glimpse of what they should be attracted to versus being in the streets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That moment when you say that in the film, it's like we gotta present ourselves. We gotta approach. We gotta face the power and be the part of the power. I remember that I connected with that because I think that's important for young people to hear.
Yes.
It's like the other things, that's false power, right? And you're finding you're taking the path of creating real power. That's what it comes across in the film. Did you ever think? I mean, at a younger age, let's say, that this would be a path for you, like.
No, actually, it's actually interesting that you asked that because even I remember when I used to sit in juvenile hall in camp or any place, and I used to look at the probation staff, and I used to look at people that would come and see us. This is before I started thinking differently. And I always used to tell myself, I do never want to come back here trying to be no mentor to nobody. I don't want to do none of this. I want to get away from this lifestyle. But then here I am doing exactly what I say I didn't want to do, because... yes, I never in my life envisioned myself being no mentor to no young people, being this person I am today, because it's hard to see yourself differently when you're a youth. It's hard for you to envision a future that is very bright, because you're so limited. And not only that, but I'm an immigrant, right? I come from Mexico. And as immigrants, we're always told that we can't do certain things. Our dreams are limited. So because of that, I never really envisioned myself like this. But here I am, I'm doing exactly what I never thought I would be doing, which is helping other young people now.
Yeah, and you're speaking from truth. Like, this is your experience.
Yes.
It's not just talking about something other people went through. You can speak to with raw authenticity, right?
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's what makes the film so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so important. So one other thing, I just found this out. So I understand you have an interest in art, and I mean, it's in the film. There's a moment in the film, but tell me about that. Is that something you have ever thought of pursuing, or how did it relate to this film, making the film?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a natural. You know how people are born with natural gifts. So I was born with my mom used to draw a lot, so I used to draw a lot before getting locked up and before getting into the system. I used to always buy lowrider magazines, art ones, and I used to just kind of duplicate what they did in my own versions and did a lot of collages like that. And when I was locked up, I used to do a lot of drawing and paintings and all of that. But, I never got really invested into it because everything else that happened. But that was something that as a kid, I always wanted to be an artist, but obviously that was not my career pathway. But it is something that I'm still tapping into more. It's in me, but I just gotta keep crafting it in. But I have an artistic mindset.
That's good. That's good. I mean, we're here at a film festival, but you see, there's art and art exhibit,
and I get inspired when I look at art.
A lot of creative people here, filmmakers, and even attendees. So, me, I'm an artist myself. So a lot of it, I find that it's useful. It can help you mentally kind of find a peace. So if that's a tool that you use, I appreciate it. I mean, I think that's it's very valuable.
Yes.
So it's good to see.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, man. I'm an artist at heart. I do everything. I do art.
Yeah.
I skate. I even do MMA.
Really?
Train MMA. I do it all.
Okay.
I always tell people I'm like the real Mexican Forrest Gump. Because what did Forrest Gump do?
Yeah.
He did everything. He was a soldier. I want to be like that. I run. I'm an athletic person. I do everything too. But obviously you cannot do everything in one life. But maybe in different phases.
But you're also doing something beyond what most people would probably do in affecting policy and trying to make change. So I appreciate it. And with the film, even you being here, I appreciate it. I think we all appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate it. I'm honored. And, this is my first official film festival like this. So it feels good. And, it's always great to be in Houston for something like this. And
hey, it's good to hear.
I hope I could continue to come back for for other things. Maybe help out the system over here, you know.
Hey,
So,
that would be great. That would be great. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
thank you.
That's
Appreciate
it. All right, thanks, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
My name is Brittney Rodriguez. I played the role of Victoria in Over the Causeway by Pablo Mejia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Brittney, I watched the film in there during the screening.
Sweet.
And I tell you, there's something about your character in the film that I really connected with. And I think it's part of it is because the story of it, right? The character is looking for a better life, a better future.
Yeah.
But still kind of stuck in a world that is maybe fighting against that. It seems like, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people can relate to, don't you think?
I definitely think so. Everybody wants to find better for themselves, but sometimes it could be hard because everything you know and everything you love is here. So taking the leap of faith is not always easy. So sometimes you just have to take that step. And so, oh man, I resonated with myself, and that's why I chose to participate in this story.
Okay, that's why I wondered, was that did you have a personal connection with that experience, with that character, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially with Red Rocket being my first project. I got a taste of what it was like, so I never knew that I wanted to do film until I did film. And once I did it, it didn't really feel like I was filming. It felt like I was recording a therapy session.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe work a few things out, huh?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is, I like that it's a film that shows us maybe some people or a walk of life, especially Galveston. Are you from Galveston? Are you familiar with Galveston?
I'm from Beaumont, but I'm very familiar with Galveston.
Okay. Yeah,
So that's our summer vacation place. We always go to Galveston, so it's like either the boardwalk, Schlitterbahn, or Kima.
So I think an older generation than you are, but I feel like it was great to see this on film, like a younger generation, the struggle of a younger generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That moves differently, sounds different, just thinks different sometimes.
Yeah.
How did you feel about bringing that to the film with yourself?
So growing up, I always felt like, one day I would want someone to be able to represent me in a film, someone who I could resonate with and kind of understand. I never pictured that I would be the one representing not only myself, but a whole community of people who are like myself. So it's beautiful, and I'm blessed to be able to be in this position and do this.
That's what I think. It really stuck out to me. It's like you seeing a real person, or it feels like your character is authentic, it's true, right?
Yeah. So even if I don't relate to the topic per se, I could find something that is something similar, something that I've been through, or even someone that I know has been through a situation similar, and I just try to tap into that and bring that to the screens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you relate to the I want to say the family relationships in there? I know there's, the grandmother.
Yeah.
There's just dealing with different people, like pulling you kind of in different directions. Is that something that you connected with in a way, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So, all my people want better for me, but, it's, it can be scary, and sometimes, it's not always reassuring. When you go somewhere else, you're not 100% guaranteed that it's gonna work or it's gonna make it happen. And being family, they want the best for you. So the last thing they want is for you to go somewhere and wind up being several steps back versus moving forward. So I got like my abuelita on my dad's side. Mom wants the best for you, but at the same time, mom has things going on, and sometimes mom needs your help. I have a little brother, but I didn't grow up with him. So I grew up being the younger sibling. So as far as the aspect of being a bigger sister, I didn't relate to that part. But pretty much every other part on there, like I felt like I was able to be myself. I felt like I myself walked onto the screen and was like, this is what we're doing today.
So, Brittney, I just want to thank you for taking a few minutes. It's just a little conversation, talking about the film. How do you feel about the way it finally turned out? I know you did say in the screening it took like a couple of years to really see the finished thing, right?
Yeah, it did. So growing up in a small town, a small city, it is beautiful when someone actually captures your surroundings and captures it in a beautiful way and not in a way that degrades the area. So I'm glad that he captured it in a way to where it uplifts the environment and shows someone that, you know, even if you don't think it's beautiful, there's still beauty to be found within it. So I think he did an amazing job. I'm so thankful for Pablo, and I'm so thankful for y'all and the Houston Film Festival for allowing us to be here and giving us a platform to share our art.
Oh yeah, it's a great film. We're proud to have it in the selection. So thank you for being here. Thanks for talking with us for a few minutes.
Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Glenis Hunter. I am the writer and director of Supa Hair. And Supa Hair is a short film about Luna, who is a Dominican Afro-Latina, and her mother recently just passed away. And her and her sister moved to Arizona to live with their estranged grandmother. And there she comes to realize that this hair that she doesn't feel she has a connection to, that she's been struggling to maintain, actually holds an ancient family lineage power.
Okay. So one of the things that kind of sticks out to me is this relationship, this kind of multi-generational dynamic that you have. So can you tell me a little bit about like that? Where did that come from? Was that part of maybe your own experience or just experiences you've seen? Mothers and daughters, basically?
Yeah, a lot of this film has to do with mothers, daughters, the generational things that we inherit, right, from our parents, own experiences as well. A lot of the things that happened to Luna in the short film are things that have happened to me as well. So I think it's kind of a mix of everything.
Okay. And so how important is it, the element of the hair and this artifact? Like, it's a little bit of I'm sure there's symbolism in there, right? So tell me about like that, like melding that with this idea of these relationships and right. where you found the sweet spot for this story.
Yeah, so the hair is a very important component, obviously. The reason I wanted to focus on hair was because of the way that Afro hair is, seen in Latin culture. You know, when we think of Latinos, most of the time we think of Latinos with like straighter hair and things like that. And so I really wanted to empower and showcase Afrocentric hair. And then I needed a tool or something to showcase how that magic kind of comes alive. And so the comb was kind of like a perfect way to do that. The idea of how I got the comb was actually through a ancestral family story that my father used to tell me.
Really?
Yeah, about an ancestor that I used to have on the island of Montserrat in the Caribbean, and people would line up every day to comb her hair with this comb that she had. Yeah, okay. And so for me, I was like, well, that's the perfect way to incorporate it. That's what is carrying this magic. And of course, this comb, it doesn't just come out of anywhere. The comb kind of finds her. And the comb can be traced back to centuries until, ancient Egypt, Kemet.
Yeah. And so is there also an element of, whether you want to call it like accepting your identity, or I'm sure that's an important role, an important part of what you wanted to say. So
yeah,
tell me a little bit about that. Like,
yeah, none of us are perfect. And I think I personally really struggled growing up with accepting who I was. I had a Dominican mother, a father who was Black and Native American, and I didn't really know kind of where I fit into everything. And I didn't have hair that looked like anyone in my family. And, people would get frustrated combing my hair when I was growing up. And so it was hard for me to learn to love myself, And so for me, creating this movie, writing it, it was very healing into accepting who I am. And that's the overall message of the film. It's love who you are. Your power doesn't come from a comb. It comes from you.
Right. And I know for a lot of filmmakers, storytellers, there is a therapeutic nature to expressing these things. And I kind of sense that. Like that was an important element of the story and of these characters. And so I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see you found a way to work it into a story like this. So Any interesting details about the shoot, the production of it, like more maybe a technical side of it?
Yeah, so it was a challenge on many levels. The film was actually part of the LALIF Inclusion Fellowship.
Okay.
And LALIF is the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival. The fellowship was sponsored by Netflix. So we received money from Netflix to be able to shoot our films. And yeah, I mean, we expected or kind of went through some of those challenges that we always kind of go through when we're shooting things. But for me, the biggest challenge was really learning animation. We have animation in our film. I've never done animation before. And so I really had to lean on an incredible animation team. Shout out to the animation team of Supa Hair for really, honestly, working for free sometimes because animation is extremely expensive. And, we just didn't have it in the budget to kind of really be able to support as much as I wish we could have. But they did an incredible job.
They were able to grind it out and make it look the way you wanted.
They were able to make it, they were able to kill it. And, through that, we take this audience through this dream state.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how else would we have been able to?
Of course, right.
Have gotten that done.
Well, great. We're glad to have you here at the festival. Glad to see your work here. Any other projects coming up down the road or?
Well, right now I'm currently writing a feature film for Supa Hair, and we are, looking for people to hopefully fund that in the future.
Okay, so more to the story? Or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
A lot more.
Yeah.
We wanna turn this. We want her to be a Marvel superhero.
Wow.
I'm speaking it out to
All right. Well,
the universe.
Sometimes you got to do it, right? Put it out there.
That's my dream.
Yeah.
And then working on some other projects.
Okay, great. Any place people can follow you, check out what you're doing, or?
Absolutely. So my personal Instagram page is at Glenis Hunter.
Okay.
So that's GLENIS HUNTER.
Okay.
And then our Supa Hair page is at Supa Hair Short.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and it's an honor, honestly, and just I'm so blessed and so grateful to have all these wonderful festivals just appreciate my work and have us come in. It's amazing.
It's great work. It's great work.
You.
It's super work.
Super work. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Glenis. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
My name is Gerardo Velasquez, and I am the writer and director of The Garden of Adam.
All right, Gerardo. So I have some interesting questions for you. I just saw the film with you, and one of the things that sticks out to me is your passion and your real commitment to telling this story. It's about this well, I'll tell you what, why don't you tell me a little bit about the film?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's about two parents who lose their kid to a police shooting, and they fight about what to do about it and how to move forward. One of them wants to protest and hit the streets, and the other one just wants to plan the funeral, wants to stay away from the spotlight and just grieve in solitude. And the film is really about showing people that everyone has a different way of fighting for what they believe in, and sometimes you just need a little help in finding how to do that.
I mean, so I think you're tackling a couple of different things in the film, and it's interesting the way you do it, because you are making a statement, commenting on things that are happening in today's world, especially I think around the time that you made the film. But you're also tackling the dilemma, the circumstance of a parent or parents dealing with grief, right? And people handle it in different ways.
Yeah.
And so where did you kind of find the perspective on that side of it? Of, I mean, I'm a parent, and it's something I connected with, your portrayal specifically of the crippling power of grief, and it can kind of affect you in a way that you might not think would happen. You think, well, I can be strong.
Right.
And tell me a little bit of how you found that,
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it was like real grief. Like I think back to that time, and it was just such a hard hard time for me specifically. I think like 2020 was a really hard year, you know, like I don't come from money, you know what I mean? Sure. I'm was raised in a single parent household, you know, like I'm a child of immigrants, and my dad was deported back in 2014, you know, like we've always sort of struggled to survive. And so 2020 was just like all the nails in the coffin. Like it was probably one of the worst years that I've ever lived through, while at the same time going through all of this grief of seeing our communities just being like beaten down by police officers. Like I literally watched my friends get beaten and arrested by HPD, you know, for protesting their rights, you know, for fighting for their voices to be heard, you know. And I think what I saw happening at that time was sort of this very difficult disconnect in our own communities, in our own Latina communities, where the conversation of race and ethnicity is so confusing to so many people, and the conversation of blackness in Latinidad is so confusing to so many people, and there were just no films or documentaries or really anything talking about police violence towards
a lot of
Mexican Americans, you know,
just going untold or ignored.
Exactly, you know,
right?
and so I witnessed this horrendous thing happen in Chicago. This 13-year-old kid named Adam Toledo, he's a Mexican-American kid from Chicago, was killed by a police officer in 2021. And that was after all the protests. That was after everything, you know, everyone said everything was going to change. And it happened again. And it happened to someone that looked and felt like so similar to my own nephew. And so that specifically just broke my heart in such a different way. And while at the same time I had done my first feature film, it premiered here at the Houston Latino Film Festival in 2018.
Yeah. Good to see you back.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be back, but you know, under very difficult circumstances, because I didn't know what was going to happen next with my career. I was getting offered the worst auditions left and right. Like I was getting offered, you know, to play like drug dealers and cholos and like criminals, like literally criminals. And so I also didn't know what the future held for me, you know? And so I decided to start writing this film. I put myself in the shoes of a father, because I thought, what would I do if I lost my nephew like that? And what would I do if people went out and marched in the streets and then nobody did anything and nothing changed? How would I live? How would I continue going on? And you know, I saw the story of Adam's family and how they started a community garden in his name, and I realized that's their version of fighting. You know, that's their language, and that's the way they connect, you know?
Right. Even the dynamic between the two characters, the two parents, that they're not necessarily going to be on the same page or feel the same way. And that is a realistic.
And that's us with our families, bro. Like, that's how it is like, you know, you're going to disagree with your family. You know, you're going to disagree with people you love. And it's so heartbreaking when you see something happen that is so horrific, that you know is so wrong, and the message doesn't get across to certain people that you love. And the challenge is, who are you willing to give up on? And who are you willing to keep fighting for? And it's like, at some point you have to figure out how to get that message across. And that's sort of what this film was like, I want it to be understandable and approachable and accessible, so that anyone can watch it without question, understands what the point is.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
and like, that's what I wanted to make for my people, for my family, you know? So that it's not like spoon feeding you what the point is, but it's clear enough that you can follow and you can start your own conversation about it.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. It really does open it up now. So the floor is kind of here. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's not hide it. Let's not push it
Let's stop
away.
pretending like it's not our fight, you know? And that's what that stubborn character, that demo represents, is all of those people in our own community that's like, this is not my fight. This is Black Americans. That's their struggle. And it's like, no, like, we are also victims of this as well. They kill our people just as much as they kill others. And we live in fear, you know, for fear of being deported, like fear of speaking out is one of the biggest things that prevents us from telling stories and gathering our communities, you know, and it keeps us divided. And that's the point, you know, that's what they want, you know, and it's like, this is part of the fight. Like, it's all part of it, you know, and so it's like, yes, I will go out and protest. Yes, I'll go out and vote. I'll go out and volunteer. I will help my community and my people. But also, my art is not just going to be self-indulgent. Like, there's going to be a point to it, you know, and it's going to be part of that fight too, you know, and this film is going to go on and do what it's going to do and continue that fight as well. And so, yeah.
I appreciate that it does work on that level too.
Yeah.
Like, it is commenting, it is its own story,
Right.
but it is also your tool
Right.
for working through this kind of,
Absolutely.
let's say, moral question or you know, this. No,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
it's a way of
absolutely.
expressing your point of view
For
and
sure.
still
Yeah.
getting an idea across.
Absolutely, yeah. And I wanted it to be, you know, I mean, it's my first film, so it's scary. It's really nerve-wracking, but I also didn't want it to be frivolous, you know? Like, I wanted it to have a point, and I wanted it to speak to my values. And I think it does that, and I hope that the message gets across. You know,
I think
and
does.
if it doesn't, I'm going to keep fighting to
You were in the
know.
screening, right? I mean,
Yeah, I
you,
was.
you heard that reaction.
Yeah, that's
That must have
crazy.
felt great, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy. Like, that's like my 51st time watching it, but that was the first time I ever watched it and heard like applause afterwards.
Hey, but it's deserving. It's deserving. It's great
Yeah,
work.
man.
And I mean,
For sure.
anything you want to talk about, like the production of it? I mean, that's more of a
Yeah.
technical discussion, but that's up to you.
For sure, yeah.
Anything you learned maybe as a director? And
Yeah, man. I mean, as a director, I think I just learned, like, be vulnerable, be honest. Being scared is okay, you know. I think it takes a lot of bravery to admit it, and I think that's what's more critical to being a good director, is just telling people, you know, like, I'm not the person in this room that knows the most. And that's what makes you a good director,
It does
is
take,
that you're
like,
willing to learn, you know.
a sort of openness.
Absolutely.
For, you know, I've always said this is like, wherever the idea comes from, if it's the best idea, the best idea wins.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's why, like, I would lean over to, like, the boom op and be like, "Hey, what'd you think about that take? Like, did you like the acting? Okay, cool. Then we're on the right track, you know." And I think what I learned is that the energy on set is so important, and being able to communicate that message to everyone so that everyone understands why you're doing what you're doing. And so everyone shows up every day motivated to make the idea better and to strengthen the concepts. You know, like, your storyboard is one thing, but you could have somebody that is so passionate on set that could give you that next extra bit of, like, magic.
All of a sudden, you've got something you didn't expect,
Exactly.
but works even better. Right?
Exactly, you know, and every day I just started every day with, like, "Hey everyone, this is my first film. I don't know what I'm doing. I've been an actor for over a decade, but I've never directed. So if I mess up, please let me know and we'll try to work on it." And I covered my weaknesses. I had people on set that I trusted that were really good at what they do, you know, and I was really good at what I did, you know, like, I knew how to work with actors, and I think that's where I excelled. And I made sure that the other things that I didn't know as well, I had people covering those bases. But I mean, I think the biggest thing I learned was just in the writing. I think you know, like any first-time filmmaker, bro, like, I could have written less locations, I could have written less characters, and it would have saved us time and money. But at the end of the day, I think the community came together and wanted to see it happen. So we were very lucky that we got to use more locations and more actors, but I also am not going to take that for granted and you know, keep banking on that in the future.
Yeah,
know?
I mean, it's a matter of working with what you can get or what
Exactly,
you have,
yeah.
and I think you made the best use of it. I mean,
Absolutely. And I thought, you know, if this is the story that I allowed it to go there, you know, like, a lot of people got involved, and so the crowdfunding campaign kept growing. The goal kept getting bigger because we were like, okay, now we have all these people involved. It's very important to all of us. The stakes are so high. So the budget just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger. And so that's that's why the goal ended up being $15K, because I just wanted to pay all these people. I was like, I want to get as much free equipment as I can. I want to get as much borrowed resources as I can and spend as much of that budget on just paying people, right? Because again, it's grassroots. It's for the community. That was the driving force behind every decision, was how does it benefit the community the most, right? But for my next film, I don't need to do that, Like for my next film, I think because it's my own personal story, like it's 9 pages, it's one location, it takes place in one room.
Sometimes that's the way to go.
And that's all we're going to do.
If that's all you need to tell the story and tell it effectively.
Exactly.
Then that's all you need.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think now I'm trying to find that sort of balance between being able to handle and to like wrangle a crew for a $15,000 short film, but also, be a minimalist and be efficient and be able to get something done.
Yeah, there's a strength in that, right?
Yeah,
because it shows like one, you can handle a lot, but you can also make a lot out of a little.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I've always kind of done that. Like that's how I was raised.
Exactly. I think we all can understand that. Yeah,
exactly,
sure.
man. And it's like when you bring that hard work and that spirit to filmmaking, like there really is nothing that can stop you. It's like I need 2 actors and 1 room, and that's it. Like we're making magic, And so I think it's just finding that voice. Like I'm excited to really find that voice, and I think we're gonna keep working with our community and our people and everything that was so beautiful about this. I'm excited to just bring to the next project.
Well, great. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here with this film. I think it really went well. I mean, that screening was pretty magnificent.
Crazy.
So, I hope we see you again here with another film.
Absolutely, man.
Right?
You'll see me again very, very soon.
So, all right, man. I just wanted to talk for a little bit. So,
thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the support, and
Of
I
course.
appreciate everything that this film festival has done for me, man. Like ever since I was a baby rookie, you guys have always been behind me and supported me, and like I am just so grateful for this, and I hope it continues to grow and thrive and succeed because you guys deserve it.
Oh, well, thanks, man. Thanks. Great to have you
Thank you so
here.
much, man. I
All
appreciate
right,
you,
for
bro.
Sure. Yeah.
So my name is Sharon Arteaga. I am the writer-director of the short film In Tow.
Okay. So, Sharon, I want to ask you, we just watched the film in the screening, and the one thing that kind of really stuck out to me was the chemistry between the mother and the daughter in this story. So that was something that I wonder, like, was that a real personal element to the story that you wanted to really show? Or is it just a matter of this is the story you wanted to tell? Like,
Yeah. Anytime every film I've made, like they're very much inspired by my mom. And this one, it was our interactions together. My mom is from Mexico City and came to Texas as a young person, and like I've been able to have a lot of opportunities that have been made possible because of her, including she allowed me to skip having my quinceañera in exchange for a video camera. Like it was
Wow.
my first business negotiation at 14.
Okay.
So like she is my biggest inspiration, and so that relationship means a lot to me, and I explore it in every film that I make in a different angle. And this one was just very much about like the opportunities I've been able to have through all her struggle, and how sometimes I would be frustrated with her because I'd be like, why do I have to be dealing with all these things, like, housing insecurity and being poor, but then realizing like, oh, she was giving me the best she could with what she had, and I get to be a filmmaker now, you know?
So, I mean, that's the best kind of support, encouragement in a way, right?
Yeah.
Did you find, like, how important was casting to get this right in your film? Because it feels authentic. These 2 actors you have, they feel like mother and daughter. I mean, just the way they communicate and body language, they really have that reality to the on-screen relationship.
Yeah, I take a lot of time with casting because it's true what they say, like casting is 90 or 99% of directing. And so knowing that it's going to be such a crucial process, like I first did my first round of auditions to explore what moms and what daughters were out there. A connection to South Texas is very important to me because that's my world. And so both our actors ended up being from the Rio Grande Valley. And after doing our initial round of auditions, I would have callbacks where I would do chemistry reads with the mom and the daughter. And I mean, we had many combinations of people. And when Sandy Avila came up as the mom, I first cast Katie Atkinson, who'd been in a previous film of mine, but I was still like, I'm still going to, have her audition and make sure that it's the right part for her. She was amazing. But when Sandy came to do the read with Katie, it was in COVID days, so it was a virtual one. I saw her eyes just gleam. Like, I was like, okay, she wants her. They are bonding very well, and it just felt very, very natural. And maybe some of it had to do that they came from the same place and like had this unspoken language together. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, it really comes across. It's one of the first things, because there's a lot about this film that I think will grab people. There's a big hook to it. There's a big the premise of it. It's the two of them trapped in this mobile home, being towed away. Right. So, I mean, there's a whole level of technical things that are going on to make that happen. But I think the core of it is these two characters, and that's what really stuck to me, honestly.
Thank you.
Because I mean, I don't necessarily have a mother-daughter experience, right? But as a parent, but also as being a young person, to see both sides of that reflected in a realistic way, and you even did a great job, like with mixing the humor and the wit of it versus some of the more emotional kind of moments. The back and forth they have, it's a little testy sometimes, but it's also, they find a bond in this situation, right? Now, was that part of the story that you envisioned, or did that kind of come out of making the film, seeing how it was with these two actors?
It was definitely part of the vision. Like, I really wanted to play with the pacing of what it feels like to grow up and not know when home could be lost tomorrow. Like, it comes with chaos, and it comes with, like, I always talk about how, like, as humans, we're not just one note. Like, even though we're going through tragedy, we still have our moments of like laughing about something and then like being quiet about it and reflecting. So I wanted to play with those ups and downs, not only for financial instability, but just like parent-child relationships are like that too,
of course,
right? It's like you have your ups, you have your downs, and so that was already in the vision of like, this is what this film is going to feel like, because that's what this story is, that's what the themes are. But it was, I mean, it was definitely a challenge to be finding the right balance and finding the right timing for things. And a lot of that came through making sure that I was getting feedback from people throughout different points of the process. So my producers put together a table read in the early script days, and we were just kind of gauging what reactions were and like where they were able to give us their feedback. And but then once we had the edit done, it was also like having another test screening for it, or having a test screening and seeing, like, oh, people are feeling really lost here, or like this joke isn't landing, this is too early to be funny, this is too late to be dramatic, or so finding that right mapping of the time took work and needed crafting to happen.
So talking about crafting, talking about work, I got to touch on it now. The whole technical exercise of, so this is not actually set in a moving trailer home, but the idea is sold. I mean, you do a convincing job with all the camera work, all the special effects that you have. Even you mentioned some visual effects. So all of those things adding up, even the sound design, right?
Yeah.
So how much planning had to go into that? or was it something you kind of had to figure out along the way?
No, I mean, part of why I like working in the scripted format is because I'm a planner. Like
Okay. Got it.
I need to know what's going to happen before we go and do it. And that doesn't mean I'm not spontaneous. Like, it leaves me room for being spontaneous. You know, a little big, huge thing happened in the world, COVID. And we used that time to really like lock in the vision, but also to talk to people, like to consult with VFX people, even if they weren't going to work for us. We were just like, hey, we like the work this person does, let's contact them. And because everybody was online at the time, you know, it was like people in London were just a video call away and they had time to be on it. So we were asking questions from everyone that we could.
That's something that, as you say that kind of makes me think. So the film itself, the story itself, right? These two characters, that could just be the two of them sitting at a table, right? But the idea of putting it in this specific situation where everything is tenuous and nothing's really certain, I mean, was that even possibly like a metaphor for that period of time when you were making the film with COVID and
I hadn't thought about
so
that,
much
but yes.
of the world is kind of like just up in the air?
Yeah.
It as you say it, that's what it kind of occurs to me. It's like it did feel like that for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, that
we don't know where we're going.
That is very, very true. I think, being from the coastal bend here in Texas, like a lot of the themes I'm drawn to is like this idea of never knowing when you could just lose home. Like, you know, hurricane season comes around every year. And I feel like Houston has very much gone through several events that have had that become very real. So I'm very, there are a few more stories I want to explore about that, of like just the uncertainty of like things not being here tomorrow.
I think a lot of films we've seen, even the ones in the shorts, the block that you were in, I think a lot of them have different approaches to a similar thing of maybe not knowing what the future might hold.
Yes.
Maybe finding a way to a better future, that kind of thing. So it's fertile territory, and a lot of the films here, I think, are exploring that. So I'm glad you're here with it. So.
Yeah. No, I'm so happy to be here at Houston Latino Film Festival because this is my third film that has played here. I hadn't been able to come in person. It was either because COVID shut down the first time I was coming out, and then the other times it was like not having the financial ability to come or the schedule, and when we made In Tow, we were like, we are going to mark our calendars for Houston Latino and make sure that we make it out to that, because you know, being in the screening, it just like validated why I wanted to come here. Like, I was just like, Houston, you get it. Like, you know this, and like they were laughing in the right parts, gasping in the right parts, and it filled my heart a lot.
Okay, well, great. I'm glad you're having a good time.
Yes.
So I hope this is a good experience for you.
Yeah, thank y'all for making this space. I mean, it's very needed.
Yeah. That's why we're here. So,
Yeah.
All right. So, Sharon, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking a minute.
Yeah.
All right.
My name is Daniel Fabelo, and I'm with El Gato Feo.
All right. So, Daniel, this is a really interesting film. And I'll hold this up for the camera there. There you go. El Gato Feo. So this is an interesting story. I'm curious, like, where did maybe the genesis of this? I know it's taking place in a period, and it's revolving.
I like to call it a Latina Western. You know, but except more grounded than like Bandidas with, pulling out.
Okay, so I have to admit that's kind of something that came to mind as I read the description, but seeing the film.
Yeah, and it's funny because, a lot of people have probably seen Bandidas, but the only way to put women in that kind of role is if it's a comedy, and it's like, no, I'm rejecting that. So there's a lot of reasons I made the movie, including I was just leaving a company and wanted to prove myself. I also wanted to tell a story that comes from the heart about me and my brother's relationship and my Latino heritage, which I'm Cuban and Puerto Rican, but I also wanted to tell a story about strong women, in history, and I love Westerns. So I started researching. I discovered the Soldaderas de Mexico. A lot of people know them about as Las Alelitas, right? And they're in parades and everything. But they fought alongside brothers and husbands and fathers in the Mexican Revolution, or between 1910 and 1920. So anyway, when I was researching that, I saw the next Latina heroine, in front of me. I thought that these women embodied what I wanted to see on screen as a Latino filmmaker, right? So I just started writing, and I wrote a longer version and then wrote a shorter version that is at the festival now.
So is it possible there's a feature in there somewhere?
Or a TV show. I mean, now with the way things are,
Right.
like a TV show would be really interesting because you have so many things going on in the revolution that a lot of people don't know about, where you have the federal government, you have Pancho Villa, you've got Zapata down in the South, you've got the United States messing with everything,
Right.
there's the Texas Rangers along the border. So there's a lot, and the refugees coming from Mexico into Texas. That was the first big wave of migration, and there was workers from Mexico. Texans would United States would go into Mexico and vice versa for a long time until the war, and that kind of changed everything. So there's a lot of things going on in 1910 to 1920.
Yeah, it's a specific window, but yeah, you're right. There's so many different stories that are probably hidden in that narrow window, right?
And these women are just one facet of it, but even within that, you have girls who were, they go to war often because they're taking care of the animals, or they're feeding the soldiers. Sometimes they're prostitutes. Sometimes they're just working the rail yards, Sometimes they're go and fight, and their husband or their brother gets shot. They pick up the gun and they start fighting. And some of these women became generals. And it also, at least for a while, was a big civil rights movement, because these women who were fighting and helping started demanding more rights. And that is what led to a lot of reform within the federal government of Mexico.
Right.
And for instance, Luisa, who's running, and we call her a fifi pedida, which is language is so funny. What you might call a fresa today in Mexico, but she's a spoiled brat. And anyway, she in the film, the original, we filmed it. She's a propaganda artist for the federal government, right? Because they need newspapers to be doing all the propaganda. So Adelita, the revolutionary sister, hates her guts even more.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Everybody thinks she's a spy, but it's like, oh no, she's just working for the. Anyway, so it was important to just make sure that you could tell that the whole movie is a question about how we treat each other as neighbors, as family members, as citizens, when there is such division, right? And so the most heightened way I could think about that was you have these two sisters who are on opposite sides of the war. Can they put that aside in order to help her? Help the other one.
Big question, right? Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting to put it that way, because I feel like there's parallels. It's a kind of a metaphor on even current day, situations, 100%. Culture.
My dad keeps saying, whenever he watches the movie, he's like, I just see the women fighting in Ukraine, but I also see the potential civil war that people talk about here in the States.
Of course. There's so much division, whether it's on specific issues or gender, so many things. And yeah, where do we still find the common ground? Can we, right?
Right. And what would you do if your family member, it's really about Thanksgiving. It's almost about Thanksgiving. Because I hear this so much of I'm skipping my Thanksgiving this year because of my crazy uncle.
Right.
And my opinion is you should go talk to your crazy uncle and see why he's so upset and voting for a different person that you don't want. And this is kind of like that. It's not a Thanksgiving dinner, but it's that idea of, can we talk, how divided do we have to get where you won't even talk to your family? And is that silly? I don't know. But then other people, what I was reminded when I was showing the film is that people, especially in Latino culture, maybe you can speak to this, everybody has a different view of what the importance of family plays in their lives. And I think traditionally or stereotypically, Latinos are more closer with their families.
Tighter knit.
They're tighter knit, right? But not always. Not the case for LGBTQ people or, different people. So I don't know. It hits people differently.
It does. I mean, but that's the thing, right? It's something that at least starts the conversation. And just like maybe the conversation that these two characters or people in those situations need to have, it's at least starting the conversation. And I think that's what all good art, that's what all good creative work does. It gets you thinking, maybe challenges you a little bit, but...
Yeah, and I like to think, what I've had other people say, like, when they see Luisa, everybody wants, Adelita is this woman, this girl, she's only 16, the actress is like 19, but the character's like 16, 17. She's got a bandolier across her chest. She's got a rifle. She's a sniper, like all of these things. A lot of us wish we were Adelita in our everyday lives as far as like being forthright and brave and revolutionary, but most of us are probably Luisas. We're scared and we're running and we're dealing with different things. So I don't know. It's just like who you want to be, who you see yourself as.
Exactly. That's what I think is really interesting. Like it is its own thing, but you can kind of project or find yourself in one of those characters or somewhere in the mix, right?
Yeah. And the wider story in the future is just taking that conflict, but seeing like, well, if we have to go on a mission together, what would that conflict be like? If we're not just one night together, but we're like, several days or weeks together.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the question that it seems to pose, right? Like, what could it look like down the road?
Yeah.
So, if it's ever something that you do, expand out or something, I'm interested to see what that would look like someday. So.
Yeah. Well, and what did you think? How did you react to or did you get the Western vibes and like all of these other things? How did it hit you?
Well, so recently, Pedro here at the film festival, I had a good conversation with him about Westerns. So I'm not up on Westerns, right? I mean, I know like more modern contemporary Westerns, but like going back, I'm going to school on that.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm really like going back, watching old Westerns from the 30s, the 40s, through the spaghetti Westerns, which I kind of have some knowledge of. But it was never a genre I really paid a lot of attention to. So that's why I'm interested, like this story, it's set in a time period, but it's telling me a different story than I think of as a Western.
And by definition, it's not a Western because that's supposed to be the American West. But, the movies that inspired me were like, I watched, there's always the spaghetti Westerns of like, the good and bad and the ugly and stuff. Duck You Sucker is so good. And it's about the Mexican it's an Irish guy fighting in the Mexican Revolution.
Okay.
Highly recommend. Great train crash sequence.
Okay.
And but it's also like McCabe and Mrs. Miller, the Robert Altman movies because we had I don't know how much we want to get into the production of it.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean I can talk to you for an hour about it, but like we got a 24. This is for the film geeks out there. 24 millimeter to 290 millimeter zoom lens, so that we could start wide. So the opening shot,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, but we use it also. I wanted it to be longer takes with just the zoom for when Adelita's giving her monologue about the El Gato Feo story, but you can see that it creeps in slower and slower. And that was because I wanted everybody to be like, okay, we see the space and we see where we are, but then it's really, as it zooms in, and we end up at like 275 millimeter on Adelita's face, like it's close up in the movie, because I just want you to just only see her face. It's just black behind her because it's at night. There's nothing else, because I just wanted you to connect with these two sisters.
That's okay. So all right, we're going there.
So Robert Altman would do that stuff.
Yeah, that
all the
opening
time.
shot, even just that one shot, there is a moment where you wonder, like, because it's so far off, or she's so far off.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know maybe what I'm supposed to look at right now. until you see her, and you're like, oh, okay.
And a lot of people told me to cut that shot.
Really?
Yes.
Oh no, that's a nice touch.
Yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, you should cut onto her heels in the desert," because she's running from the wedding. I'm like, no. The idea is you need to be lost.
Yeah.
Like if she's lost, and I have you lost,
You're
I'm
there
now
with her.
communicating something to you that we are lost. Yes, you know.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
great. I thought about that. I was like, okay, something's going on here.
Right.
This is a move. This is
a
not
move.
just
Yeah, it's a move.
Because the traditional thing is just show feet in the sand or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, we were making some moves like that. And, there's things like just advice for filmmakers is like, if you want to save some money and you're doing a nighttime scene, don't put a moon in the sky.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Because if you put a giant light in the distance, you have to hire somebody to put that light up, you have to rent the light, and then every time you change angles, you have to move that light. So I did not do a light. It's just the fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's effective though, because it's not that crucial to know like where's the light. It's you're right here in their eyes, in their face, right? So yeah. Okay. Well, you're right. We could go on.
I know. You probably only have an hour podcast.
No. I appreciate the conversation. Let you talk about your film.
Yeah. Well, and let me just say that the film. The actresses in this film, I think, along with the cinematography, and we went out and shot it in West Texas along the Pecos River, so it's all real. Like we're doing this stuff old school, no AI bullshit, but we're out there, and but the actresses, I think, are what make the movie.
You're right. I should comment on that. Like everybody, and a lot of films that we see, but these also, the performances feel real, they feel organic. There's no acting going on, and it feels like you could even see like these two are sisters, and they're on opposite ends of this. They're the flip side of the same coin, right?
Yeah.
It feels very authentic. I mean, that chemistry that they have. Is that something that you really like focus on casting and getting the right?
Well, I will say that it was challenging in that, like Esme, like when we talk about like believability of could these be sisters, Esme's a little bit more cinnamon skin, and Natalia has more of a lighter complexion, but they're half sisters, so you can kind of believe it. But it's funny because Natalia's Spanish is different than Esme's Spanish because, from Mexico City versus Texas, different things like that. But I think they bonded really well when we did rehearsals, and they were just so easy to get along with. And during rehearsal it was great, but then they also had 5 hours to like be out in the drive to West Texas, so they bonded during that. And all the because there's only women in the film, all of them while we were prepping were able to just kind of they formed a little sisterhood.
Okay, so that actually
helps. That helped them kind of, but they also had to I had to go up to Esme at one point and just be like, I really want to try to make her like cry, like you're trying to hurt her, like with your words. You're not like if you could you'd shoot her right now is what I told her. I was like, you can't, you don't, like you're not going to pick up this gun and kill her, but that is what you
that's the energy.
That is what you feel inside. You resent her so much. And the last take that you see in the film, I believe, is the one where she was just like laid into her. And it's this reserved thing because she doesn't speak until like 4 or 5 minutes into the movie, so she's very reserved. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
This is
wrap up.
No, it's a great film. Again, El Gato Feo.
Yeah, you can follow us on El Gato Feo Movie on Instagram or elgatofeomovie.com. We'll have like an email if you want to email me for the link or something. And then eventually we have a screening in Austin next month at the ATX Showcase, but then we'll also be putting it up online, hopefully with a channel or something in the next month or two.
Great.
So people can see it.
Any work or ideas or projects down the road you want to?
Well, I'm also, this was a great producing experience, but I'm producing a friend of mine, Maria Meaya, has a short film that was on HBO Max, La Macana, and I'm producing her next short film with Latino Public Broadcasting. It's called Juana Pelos, another Latina short film. And then she and I are working on something else. So we're trying to make another...
Irons.
Yeah, and then I was just accepted into the producing lab with the New Orleans Film Society.
Really?
Yeah, so I'll be doing that in May as well.
Awesome. So you got plenty of things going, huh? All right. Well, great. I appreciate you taking a few minutes, or as long as we need.
Yeah,
That's what we're asking for.
it was great talking to you. I appreciate
of
it.
course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks a lot. We'll talk again. We'll see you around the festival.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That's it. All right. So great to hear from all those filmmakers. Great to see them there to celebrate their work and to see other people's work and to even just, hey, mix it up with other people that are there too. You know, that's a big part of the festival itself. You can be a filmmaker with a film there. You can meet others who have their film selected that are screening, maybe even in the same block in the case of shorts. And even if you're not there with a film or as a filmmaker, I mean, you're there to just kind of understand what these people do and how they do it. And maybe you're aspiring, you've got ideas that you want to do. I mean, this is always a good place to, one, see the work, but also meet the people who do the work and maybe get energized, get inspired to do your own work. So, look, I'll say it again. Check out this film festival. Of course, there are other film festivals in this city and cities all around the country, all around the world. If you've maybe had enough with going to the movie theaters and kind of seeing superheroes and giant monsters and all that, you want to see something that's a little more personal, a little more intimate, a little more authentic, a film festival might be your place to go. So keep that in mind. Go to filmstreak.com. We'll get back to the films, the new films with the next episode. But if you go there, you can find other episodes, of course, 400 plus films now. But otherwise, it's been a minute since I watched some new movies. I got to admit, I did a lot with the festival and I kind of took up a lot of time, but I'm getting back into it. I've got some new stuff coming up soon. It's going to be pretty much a big left turn from some of this stuff lately, but I got more in store. So in the meantime, hey, you know what to do. Go watch something new.